Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Monday night, 8 p.m. can only mean one thing. It is the Online Darts Live Lounge with myself, Phil Bars, Jack Garwood and Dan Simpson. We have got 2 hours to try and cram as much as we can in. And I'm telling you, there is a lot to cram in. Gentlemen, good evening.
We've got one thing to talk about, Philip. What, 2 hours? 2 hours we're going to do tonight on Chris Dolby working his way through the tournament today. If you came here to listen to anything else, tough. No, all is good, mate. We're it's a busy old week. It's all right, busy. Work's busy. I've had some fencing put up around the perimeter today, around the estate. We're travelling this week, aren't we? It's the seniors. We're pilgrimaging down at the Circus Tavern. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, it's mental.
Busy.
Yeah,
I've not started packing yet.
Like we say, I'm streaming for 3 days, buggering off to Dublin for 24 hours, then joining the boys at the tavern. It's good times to be alive in darts. Nice 6 hour stream today, followed by 2 hours here. It's what we do, boys.
You did a tremendous job today, mate. I was thoroughly entertained. I wasn't free enough to be able to get involved in the chat room, but I was lurking on occasion today.
Yeah, it was a good stream. I really enjoyed this afternoon. It was good.
Well, it's difficult to not when you've got two Geordies in the semi-finals, isn't it? It's hard to if I was less busy, I was desperate. I was trying to concoct things to get onto that stream at the back end from the semi-finals. I just couldn't quite make it line up. But yeah, what a day.
Chat room is rammed already. Bob, Video Smurf, Dell is in. Jonathan Shelty, how we doing? Jonathan Wayne, Warren, Ron, how we doing? Joe, Chris, Cameron, OSU, Arrows is in. David, Ricky, James, Andy. Oh Christ, it is rammed already. Kieran, Owen, Andrew, David. We are rammed already, boys.
Solid turnout from the crew.
Yeah, Dixie as well. Right, where do you want to start? Stuff on the board or stuff off the board? Because it is very, very split today. We've got a lot happening on the board, but we've also got a lot of shit that happened off the board as well.
I'll let Dan decide because I'm nice like that.
I think we should start on the board. I might want to have one or two more of these before we get into the off the board draft. Just to loosen me up a little bit, but I don't need loosening up to talk about the Pro Tour today. We could start the Premier League. We've got that.
Let's start with the Premier League on the board. First of all, we headed to Scotland, Glasgow, the Hydro Arena for night 2 of the Premier League. First of all, chat room, we will get on to what everyone wants to talk about. Don't get me wrong. What was your initial thoughts of on the board in Scotland? And I say on in brackets.
I thought it was another. I sometimes feel like I'm the only person in the world that does, but I like the Premier League, and certainly by night 2. Like, I all these bollocks about it's the same every week. It's not, because it's week 2, so it's not the same every week, isn't it? You haven't seen all these games. There is still enough of me excited to, I can work through the day and think, it's Bunting against Van Gerwen tonight, or it's Cross against Littler, and these are things to get excited about. I thought it was really good. I thought we saw box office Van Gerwen opening the night. We saw a bit of Gezi playing his way in, which we didn't see from him last year. Obviously, lots of questions. We've still got 2 pointless players, so there are questions being asked elsewhere. There's somebody called Luke won it. No change there. That was a good night all round. Enjoyed it. In terms of darts, if you just look at darts matches, certainly quarterfinals, I thought all the quarters were pretty entertaining. Semis decent.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a good night on the hockey. Look, I certainly think consistency-wise, there are 3 players better than everyone else for consistency. I'm not saying one-off games, but Luke, and Michael are producing sublime and constant numbers, where the others were getting a very good performance, then an average performance, a good performance. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but they've also got more opportunities too, because so far we've seen Luke Humphries play 6 games, and we've only seen Nathan Aspinall play 2 games. So, like, it's difficult to be consistent if you only play 1 game a week, and if you play 3 games a week, you generally you look a bit more like you're at it. But I do think already we can look at 2 players who haven't got any points, especially, and I know we'll come on to next week's fixtures, but especially looking at next week's fixtures, you can sort of think, oh, if you go 3-4 weeks without any points, it becomes a bit tricky.
Yeah. And a couple of people have commented in the chat room already. Look, we've got an interview with Luke H coming out at some point over the next few days. He cut his finger on the board semi-final. And then for the final, everyone was like, oh, he's only cut his finger. Now, he says it, he talks about it in the interview. It didn't hurt or anything like that. It was the fact they couldn't stop it bleeding. And where he rests, that part of it, literally cut it there. And that's where he rests the dart. And where they couldn't stop it bleeding, he was struggling to get his dart to sit. It wasn't a pain thing or anything like that. It was purely the blood kept making his dart slip. And it wasn't an excuse or anything like that. He said that it didn't hurt or anything like that. But it was just that blood couldn't get it to stop.
Pain in the ass when that happens.
Yeah.
It is one of those. It's a these things happen thing. And it's, let's be honest, we don't see it much in darts. You know, like where midway through a match or midway through a talk on an evening, somebody picks up an injury or something. It's something we're used to seeing in other sports. You know, we see footballers pull muscles, go into tackles, and they start the game and 20 minutes later they're off. Big important games. We don't see it as much in darts. We're not conditioned to see all of a sudden one of the players not be able to perform at their best because of something physical. It's just really unfortunate. There's no real other way to describe it. Just unfortunate.
Yeah, like I say, he said it wasn't pain or anything like that. It was just annoyance that he kept having to go and literally wipe his finger all the time because the blood and whatever. But look, the final was superb between the pair of them. Look, Luke Littler played brilliantly all night. 104.5 against Cross, 104 against Van Gerwen, 101 against Humphries in the final. So look, he's got the job done. But look, the final before evening Yankee Clipper, and of course Anthony is in. Always good to have you in again, my friend. Look, the night was overshadowed by the crowd. First of all, what was it like watching at home? Was it as loud as what it was for us there? How did it come across?
I didn't think it was as bad as we'd seen in other tournaments, even fairly recently, through the TV. You could hear it, but I'm not sure it was worse than what we've seen elsewhere. The difference for me was, I think, more than we've seen in the other tournaments where it's come around, is that it was acknowledged more by the commentary team. You know, so what we've seen it before, we've seen it quite a few times where we can hear it, we know it's going on, and the commentary team are a bit sort of la 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 la. Isn't this darts good? Whereas what we did notice was the commentary team recognising it, calling it out, discussing that it's happened. Now, whether or not they've got to a point where you can't avoid it, it is there. As soon as it starts having a visible effect on the crowd, on the players, then you have to really acknowledge it as a commentator. Otherwise, you're not describing what's going on, right? You know, you're not commentating. So I think they did. I think they did a good job of acknowledging it. But we've had this conversation so many times before. Like, it's nothing new, and nobody was surprised. There seems to be some people seem to think this is the first time it's happened. Like, it's been going on for ages, and we have been calling for action for a long time, and it looks like we might see some.
Well, it was interesting that they were just whistling for the sake of whistling in the final, because both Humphreys and Littler were both getting it. Normally, it's just aimed at someone, whether you're whether you're a partisan to the crowd or whatever. It was aimed at both, which one made no sense whatsoever. It was just like, come on now, right? First of all, that the statement they put out, the PDC, on Friday, I haven't got issue to them doing it. I've got issue to them only doing it now. In respect of, Gezi has had that for 2 years at times, and arguably worse. We've had it worse on Euro tours. By the way, I'm not saying it wasn't bad in Glasgow. I'm just saying I think it's been worse. And Gezi has had it horrifically and nothing. But
I agree.
But because it happened to Luke and Luke, it seems like a statement was made.
Is it that, or is it because, like you said, it was aimed at both players and it was needless and it was aimless? Normally, you can understand a German crowd booing a non-German player against a German player, for instance. But when both of your stars are getting it, it's something that's creeping in more and more. Look, we've had this conversation millions of times, and whose fault is it? The security need to do more. The PDC have finally acknowledged it. I actually think Gezi whistling back at the crowd meant the commentators had no choice but to acknowledge it. That was the start then. Like, him doing that and visibly getting aggressive and going, actually, no, this is taking the piss of it now. Like, back in the early days of Price and getting booed and whatever, there were elements where you could say that Gezi brought it on himself, right? You've got the whole disagreement with Gary Anderson and Simon Whitlock before and the social media escapades and his love-hate relationship with it anyway, and then the headphones and whatever else. But also there were elements where he was going, well, I kind of miss it, and actually I need the noise to play and whatever. And when you're making comments like that week in, week out in interviews or on your Instagram or baiting people, you're sort of going to get it. Like, but he's calmed down. He just tried to get his head down and play the game a bit now. And he still was getting it from then. And it's just pathetic, isn't it? Like, respectfully, 17 weeks of this crap is difficult enough to watch without us having to have this conversation every week.
Yeah, and you talk about the Gezi thing. It's a shame he's going to get fined, because that moment was genius, where he hits a 180, turns around and whistles back at him, turns to the camera, or not turns to the camera, but turned around and just gave it a fuck off. Was hilarious.
Yeah, the other players should get together and communally fund his fine. Because he did that on behalf of all 8 of them, I think. He did that on behalf of everyone, I think. They should get together and communally fund his fine for that.
Chris, you'll get fined for swearing on TV, mate. It's an instant DRA referral. If you swear on TV, you're getting fined. The tournament director comes in and asks for clips of it. When it's physically, you can clearly lip read it. It will get clipped up and sent to the DRA. And that was as clear as it's ever going to be.
Yeah, it's a shame, but
yeah, he clearly gives it a great big fuck off after he did it. Like, it was genius from him. Look, right, let's play 2 clips. Let's play. First of all, I'm going to play the Littler clip because we've got a talking point off of that.
It was just hold the throws each, and then obviously when he got the break at 5-4, then I just thought just find something, and then Luke Littler finds it again. Yeah, obviously there was a few in particular that were doing it when Luke were throwing. And then when Kirk told him to be quiet, it got even worse. And then I missed doubles. Luke breaks at 5-4, and I'm just like, yeah, Kirk, you've made it worse for me there, and 5-4 down. But no, I broke back and then held my throw very strongly again.
It's interesting that you say that. Would you prefer the referees not say anything then if it's going to make the crowd worse?
If it's the same as what it was when Kirk said it, then yeah, just leave it. Obviously they got to step in at some point and say something, but yeah, that was pretty bad. But I got the win.
Now,
it's a challenge, that, isn't it? Because he is correct. Like, and we've said it. It's really difficult for the referees, I think, and I'm only getting my bit in first before the actual referee gets to say something. But I think they're in a really, really difficult position, because if like Luke says there, like the referee starts getting involved, tells the crowd to pipe down, shut up, stop doing it, it immediately becomes a pantomime. And literally, I've never seen a referee tell a crowd to stop whistling and not be met by a shitload of whistles back. But that's how it happens. But then if the referee doesn't intervene, we've seen them relentlessly slated, tagged all over social media, etc., for not intervening. I think it's a really, really difficult position that they get put in.
Wait a minute, I've got to no, right, but it's interesting, Gob, that it's obviously Kirk is an exceptional referee. He was involved in the Littler Mike DeDecker game at the Grand Slam where he didn't say anything. And afterwards, he took to social media, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was on the lines of, I didn't say anything because it makes it worse, and it will make it worse if I say it. And he got hammered for that. This time he stepped in, and it's almost proved his point that, look, this is why I didn't last time, because this happens.
Yeah, look, as an official, you can't win. You absolutely cannot win. And look, I don't have a lot of experience of, I don't have any experience of reffing in an environment in a crowd the size of Kirk. The experience I do have is Super Series and county and whatever else. And actually, I have a lot of control there. If you're being a dickhead, I tell you to shut up and you don't do it, I can look at security and go, right, you out, because I ref in front of 200, 300 people. I don't ref in front of 10,000 people. I haven't then got to go and identify 1, 2, 3 people going, I'm not playing this game until you get out, basically. Like, it is so much more difficult for the referees at the top level. I think, obviously, the Mike DeDecker situation made it that much more difficult. We had that whole scenario of Mike being quite critical of it and asking to say something. Then we had an incident where Charlie told people off, and actually it did kind of work. So the issue with Luke saying, oh, I wish you hadn't said anything or whatever, is you don't really know what the reaction is going to be until you say something. And then you can't just use the power of hindsight constantly to slag off someone's decision at that point, because in the moment they're doing what they think is going to alter what's going on.
Oh yeah, look, 100%. Look, there was no. I just thought it was the fact it was the same referee, and it's almost proved his.
It vindicated his point, which makes it more difficult for him to step up and say something again, knowing that that's the situation he's been in. But then, if, for instance, Hugh next week is in the same situation and tells someone to stop being a dickhead, and they do stop being a dickhead, or security actually get involved, now that the PDC has put a post that means fuck all in general, then
find me another sport.
Even worse. He can't win.
Find what gets me, and what frustrates me a little bit. Find me another elite level sport that gets this amount of press coverage and views and people tuning into Sky Sports to watch it, where your referee is in charge of also refereeing the best players in the world and fucking crowd control. Like, that's not a real thing anywhere else, is it? And we don't expect it. Like, we don't expect it in any other sport. We don't expect rugby referees to start getting into the stands telling people to sit down. And that's not, we don't expect it from football referees. There is this strange thing where we expect darts referees to be more than just darts referees and to wear 6 or 7 hats at the time as well. Like, there is a massive security team in the venue, a massive one. And we've said it for so long.
Two teams, because it's 2 different teams. PDC security manage anything one side of the barrier, and you've got a venues team the other side. Just communicate. Work. Like, it is ridiculous it's taking this long, and that statement means nothing unless the PDC go to every single venue in the future, have a sit-down talk with head of security. These are the plan of actions we want implementing. Because if they don't act on that, then that's an absolute nothing. That's a waste of time. Oh, that was really naughty. Don't do that again, please. Fucking yeah, well done.
The venue team, right? They're predominantly in the venues. They are stood. Their job is to look at the fans. They're not there to watch the darts. They shouldn't be looking at the stage. They should be looking out at the fans. Like, I've been in the venue before where I've watched people stood up whistling, and I have watched someone vape under a table, like hiding under a table to vape. And I've watched the security make a beeline for the lad vaping under the table and like fetch him straight outside. Walking past people with, like, if they just need to start pulling people out by their feet. Like, if you whistle at a darts event, you'll be dragged out by your feet, left outside in the rain, and don't come back. They will stop it. They will stop doing it. If you go hard on it, it will encourage people to not do that behaviour. Simple as. It needs to stop.
the PDC security team is very good, right? They are very, very good. And look, they have a smaller team depending on the event and so on. I'd actually like, look, it won't happen, but it would be so much better if the PDC did both sides of the barrier, because then there would be people then getting dragged out, because
they also understand it as well.
Correct, 100%. So EPS, they're all superb. So to have them the other side of the barriers would be incredible, because then there would be people getting launched out.
But the problem is when you get somewhere like a Manchester arena, the arena is just so big. It takes so many and I have got like lists of shit stories or stories of shit from going to Premier League events and the security just being horrific, like really bad. Manchester in particular, but a few where, and it's not PDC, it's
the venue security.
The venue security has been so bad.
Someone's just got a badge and they're doing it as a part-time job to earn a couple of quid that don't really care.
And queues of blokes in the women's toilet, all sniffing in the wrong lavs, and just really poor. And security guys all stood in their phone watching, not even fucking looking up. It just needs to be better. But I don't know. The venues aren't going to get better on their own. It's going the PDC and others are going to have to lean into these venues and insist upon a better service.
The problem is, this is very much of the PDC's own creation. Come and have a party atmosphere at the darts. Come and have a beer. Come do this. Come do that. Blah, blah. There's never any repercussions. There's never any stories of this happened at the darts last night. This isn't on. There's no, stupid as it sounds, videos online of how to behave, what the rules are, whatever else. It is basically left to a free-for-all. There's, 6 lines of small print on the back of the tickets? And let's be honest, most people don't even get physical tickets anymore, do they? They get e-tickets. So you can skip and ignore that bit. You just go and find your QR code. And all that ever said on the back was, don't wear your fucking football shirt in case there's a rival fan that wants to kick your head in.
I just think, though, it's a sorry state of affairs where you have to remind people to not act a prick.
I was going to say, please don't be a dickhead.
You've got, I think, in this country, you have a right to get drunk. You don't have a right to get disorderly. You should be able to go out, drink beer, and not act a bellend. If you can't, you probably shouldn't go there. Other people don't want you along for that ride or journey. I don't think it's anything to do with, because people say, oh, well, stop selling alcohol. Bollocks. Bollocks, because all we're doing again is accepting that we're going to have loads of people in there unable to control themselves. Fucking grow up. If you can't go out without acting a complete prick, stay home. But I don't think it's the job of society to constantly remind people not to act a dickhead.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of horror stories that are saying this as well, which is interesting. And look, Matador brings up a good point. He got lobbed out for downing a pitcher and then putting it on his head. The guy that Aspinall wanted to see if he could finish it or not.
that doesn't make any sense, does it? This is what,
Yeah. Dylan, I don't know, but I will let you know if they say anything before. Whilst we're on the Premier League, we'll stay on it because we've got some bigger things to talk about. It is the Emerald Isle this week for night 3. We are going to, in my opinion, the best Premier League night of the 17. The 3 Arena in Dublin.
Funny way of saying the Motor Point in Nottingham, but carry on.
What makes it the best for you, Phil? Is it that you get to have a trip to Dublin? Is that pretty much it?
That and the atmosphere is the best atmosphere out of all the nights for me. It is but when they start singing Fields of Athenry and Zombie, it is spine-tingling. It is.
Yeah, but have you heard them sing, I've got a brand new combine harvester when we go to Exeter? No, didn't think so.
The quarterfinals are as follows. Luke Humphreys against Stephen Bunting, Gellerin Price against Luke Littler, Rob Cross, Nathan Aspinall, and Michael Van Gerwen against Chris Dobie. What do we think?
think it's a tough week to be Stephen Bunting when you've got 2 losses in a row and you need points. He's gonna have to hope that cut hasn't healed.
And to be fair, even if he gets 2 points against the cut, he then faces Littler or Price, who are on fire at the moment as well.
Exactly. And the week and if he doesn't pick any points up, this is why I think Bunting is on a sticky wicket. If he doesn't pick any points up against Humphreys, he gets to go all the way to Exeter and play Luke Littler. Like, it is not getting easier for Stephen Bunting, and we could see Stephen Bunting. And let's be honest, in terms of odds, he is favourite at the minute. It's odds on that he's going to get to 5 weeks in without a point.
To be fair, next week should be all right because Luke's got all 6 of his chalets to check into when he gets to Exeter, when he gets to Minehead. So he might just bomb it and get out of there.
I was about to say, in terms of Premier League nights, and by the way, I'm not suggesting anyone is deliberately losing here, but it's the one night of the Premier League they don't mind losing early or get the hump because it means they can get in the car and get to Minehead at a sensible time.
Lovely drive, that, isn't it, Dan?
I mean, it's hairy. If you're in a car that's capable and you are slightly fearless, then it's a hairy drive. That one.
For argument's sake, next week, either Rob Cross or Michael Van Garen could potentially be in Minehead for 8:30, 8:45. However, if you're the winner, you might not be getting to Minehead until 12:30, 1 o'clock.
And the rest.
So it's the one that they don't mind. Right, just before this, before we go into it, Gob, as a referee, knows the official ruling. MVG is perfectly fine in what he does. You have to have a complete foot in the exclusion zone. Just having your toes over does not count. Correct, Gob?
Just stupid, isn't it? Like, there's no need for either way, but he gets away with it, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So let's run you through. First up, Luke Humphreys against Stephen Bunting. What are we going for, gents?
6-3 Humphreys.
Yeah, I think I have to go Luke as well.
Yeah, I'm going 6-4 Luke.
Yeah, I'll have the same score.
Getawin Price, Luke Littler. I'm expecting fireworks here in a good way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fantastic game, this.
I think this is the first time I'm going to back against Luke Littler all season. Getawin Price wins 6-4.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I was going to do the same, only I had it going right to the wire. And I'll go Price 6-5. It's the first time I think I've backed against Littler all year. I just think Gezzy's got a bit of fight in him at the minute. He's been playing some nice stuff.
Right. By the way, I want to say Price, but I can't be going the same as all you three. So I'm going you two. So I'm going Littler. I can't have a clean sweep of 3 of us. So I'm going. I actually think Price will win. But I'm going to go 6-5 Littler.
That could have been. We could have made history there because I'm confident that would have been the first time in the history of talking about darts that 3 people on anything, podcast, TV show, anything like that, all backed against Luke Littler.
There's no real logic for it either. It's not as if Luke Littler is playing bad darts. Gezzy's just playing very, very well and he's due one. That's my logic. He's due one.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He won last week, averaged 100 odd. He's played super, done nothing wrong, and we all fancy him to get beat.
Rob Cross, Nathan Aspinall.
I think this is tough. I think it's a tough one. I think for different reasons they both need it. Rob Cross wins 6-4.
Gob?
Yeah, I'm a bit worried for Asp right now because he is playing okay. He played really nicely on the Pro Tour today, averaged over 100 twice, but only won one of those. But I think Rob Cross keeps kicking him while he's down. 6-4 voltage.
Again, I actually like what I'm seeing from from both of them, to be fair, at the moment, which is why I think it'll be close. But I'm going to go 6-5 Aspinall. Again, I think it's a coin toss of a game. I like what I'm seeing from both. MVG against Chris Dobie. Obviously, Dan's going to say 6-0.
Well, the problem is, after today, it's difficult to make a case for any other scoreline, isn't it? No, I'm not going to say 6-0.
6-1.
6-2. Come on. 6-2.
Van Gerwen 6-5. We're going all the way.
I'm going 6-4 Van Gerwen. So, based off of your predictions, I would like your finalists and who wins at the 3 Arena in Dublin.
I think it'll be a bit rogue. I think we do something different. I think 2 different finalists. Price beats Cross.
Job.
Humphreys beats Cross.
MVG beats Humphreys.
No.
So that's the Emerald Isle. We'll have reaction from Dublin as well as the seniors, obviously, this week. So plenty coming your way. Right, in terms of off the board shit, first of all, I'm going to go to Scotland. Now, I didn't see any of the action of the Scottish Open this week, but there are 2 things to come from this. One, a spat between Lorraine Hyde and Paula Jacklin, by all accounts, that escalated onto social media. And the other one, which we spoke about on the stream today, was it Caden Smith?
Yes.
Was booted out of the youth event in the quarterfinals for drinking when he's 18 and playing in the men's event at the same time. Now, look, everyone knows my thoughts on alcohol and darts, but that's a separate thing altogether. I have seen no evidence presented of any rule that says youth players of age cannot drink in the event.
Allegedly, it's a WDF rule, not a Scotland darts rule, which is why it's seedy. But again, not found it, implemented wrong. Apparently was reported 3 times, and then the action they took upon the 3rd effort was to just remove him instead of go, actually, no, you need to stop doing this or whatever else. So it sounds like sour grapes from people, to be quite honest. Like, that's just a waste of time. If they're playing in both in the day, then whatever, or just cap it at 17.
Yeah.
Well, this is the problem, is when your youth darts isn't youths, you're always going to have this. Like, what if he used the fruit machine while he was there? Is that allowed? Is that not allowed?
Yeah.
It's the problem when you have adults playing in youth tournaments. That's and
there's an easy way to solve this. Your youth events are X to 17.
correct. They become youth events and you stop having adults playing them. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it's immediately solved. Because anybody with a drink in their hand shouldn't have a drink in their hand anyway. And their parents or responsible adults need to then be spoken to.
Yeah, but completely and utterly bollocks is the thing.
If you have adults in a child's event, they will behave and act like adults because they are. They can buy a lottery ticket and various other things.
Yeah, they can buy a pint.
Correct.
Yeah. Just absolutely.
It's stupid. It's utterly stupid. But again, the problem is you have to do one of two things. Is you stop having adults playing in your youth system, or if you are going to have a youth system that's up to whatever it is, 40 or something, you only have 5 years in between. You can play youth up to 40, and then you can start seniors at 45. That's how it works now. But if you are going to have that, then you have to be explicit in your rules. And we talked about it earlier. Tell people, big fucking bold letters, when you on all of the guidance and everything else, if you are playing in a youth event, this is a dry event. You will not be allowed to be partaking in alcohol until that event is finished, or you are told by the tournament director you are finished for the day, or whatever. Just have some rules and fucking stick to them. But tell everyone the rules. Don't just surprise people creeping around trying to catch people out.
Yeah, surprise, you've won a few games, now we're kicking you out.
Yeah, bollocks.
100%. Right, this one was an interesting one over the week. And where is it? Here we go. We have a huge announcement from the ADC, an expansion of their global championships, bigger prize fund, more players, a longer format, and 60K to the winner. What was your first thoughts when this came out, gents?
Boom. It's quite big, that one, isn't it? In terms of
an
amateur prize fund.
It's a big old lump of cash. There's a lot of opportunities. The opportunity is now open to more people as well. It's a very, very good and positive thing. Don't know how you could not agree. Yeah, I think it was massive. It's nice. When you're trying to promote something and grow something, we've talked about the World Championship prize, the PDC, and the changes we might potentially see in that. But when you can just have like a great big pot of cash and advertise it, a huge number, a massive figure, it then becomes incredibly attractive to all of the best players in the world that haven't got a tour card. Like if you haven't got a tour card and you are a top level dart player, you should be playing in that. Why, like that, and you should not go to other tournaments that may clash or that might, because that is your biggest chance of having a big old lump payday.
Right, there's a few points I've got off of this. First of all, this comment, we're going to come on to this and go into this a little bit more. This is amateur wars, isn't it? This is a huge shot across the barrels saying we want to be number one amateur organisation.
Yeah, look. See why it's been done. Can see trying to put one away or go and compete with one. I think narrowing players' choices is never a good thing, or forcing players to decide is never a good thing. We've said the same thing about the PDC and WDF of late when there's opportunities to play in both of those. This will force players to pick one way or the other.
Agreed.
And there's two things to consider here. One, the first prize from the ADC Global Championships is a far bigger carrot dangled than what the WDF can do. And two, I need to look into this one a bit more, but if opening round and group stage money is better than that of first round at Lakeside, there is only logically one place to go. You don't have to travel halfway to the arse end of the world and go and play in opens that are governed by people that don't really understand how to run a tournament, i.e. what happened in Scotland this weekend. To qualify, you can literally qualify from your local to some extent. The one thing I do have an issue with is the 2 weeks before and then 1 week after Christmas. I don't like it. I don't think it makes sense. You're trying to be a global tournament, and what you're effectively doing is going. Well, they're competing with the prime slots from the PDC World Championship, aren't they? By the time week 2 rolls around, which is your qualifying week to get into the final week, then the PDC World Championships will have kicked in. Then your first week back is your World Championship final week. So you've already got competition with that element for the PDC as well, sort of thing, or big news from that as well. And I get trying to capitalise on darts being on a high, but the thing to consider for me is Africa and Asia. You're going to bring players, Africa and Australia, sorry, you're going to bring players in from those regions to compete. And if they make it to the last day, over Christmas, they've either got a fun 2 weeks in London or Portsmouth or the UK away from family at Christmas, or fly out and fly back in again, which is not cheap to do at all.
I am led to believe that is being taken care of. Having spoken to people.
Good, because that's the sort of thing that needs to be looked at now to make this feasible, to make this a truly global event. Because look, ADC in the UK is doing very, very well. ADC in Europe, to an extent, is growing pretty nicely. Look, today there's been a second player from Cyprus competing in the Super Series. Like, who would have thought that years ago? We've had players from the Faroe Islands and all sorts play under that banner in just the normal Super Series weeks in the past, right? But if the ADC continues to grow and provide those players the opportunities and the pathways to then compete in that, that's a good thing. But that needs to keep growing and expanding. And to do that, you've got to make sure that the basics are taken care of for those that are intending to travel from further afield. Because look, first round prize money at Lakeside this year was barely enough to cover your hotel for the week that you'd need to be in the country for.
No, look, that I fully agree with. And Warren says the date is awful for the players, and we've just spoken about that. And look, this isn't a dig at anyone in particular, but the way darts is done, and I was looking at this more since the announcement, the issue that you've got is everyone is done on a yearly ranking system. The ranking system runs from January, February until the end of November, which gives both amateur organisations, forget the PDC because they're on their own. That is what it is. It gives them both very limited time to fit their flagship tournaments in without completely changing their ranking systems. Now,
well, the problem is, like, it doesn't matter what ranking system any amateur side uses either. Because let's be honest, the PDC are the pinnacle and remain the pinnacle. And whether you like it or not, and whether you believe that actually players are better off outside of that system at the moment, which a lot of them are, their system runs January to December and starts again in January. So if you don't match up with that, you run the risk of your players leaving halfway through your system.
Correct.
Well, that's either to run calendar year to calendar year in any other darting system in the world, because you run the risk of your players stepping up to the PDC level in that January and then losing them and making a hash of your tournament, a la the WDF World Championships a few years ago when they got special dispensation for the likes of Connor Scott to then compete at the Lakeside. And since then, the PDC have gone, you're not even having that. Actually, you're not allowed to play their full start.
Well, you beat me, so I was getting onto that they either have to make the bold decision of changing their dates and run that risk of losing players, or it stays the way it is, and unfortunately, they go head-to-head because of the very limited time they both have to fit it in for that ranking system. Because like you say, your top amateurs are going to go to Q School and try and get a card, i.e. Darragh Pilgrim, Adam Paxton, and people like that. Or
you've got to get it done before Q School, haven't you? You haven't got a choice. You have to get it done before Q School.
And when your last ranking events and cut-offs are November, you have very little place to do it.
Even the seniors went through the same thing. When we first started, the first qualifiers for the World Championships were in November. Doing the qualifiers 2 months before the World Championships makes a lot of sense. You can get the draw done without having a qualifier one in the slot and the possibilities of players going, actually, this is a better one to win than the other one. You can get the draw done. You can get the schedule out. You can sell tickets for your favourite players to know when they're going to go and watch as soon as possible. But actually, the chance of losing players at Q School then made that ridiculous. So you had to run those qualifiers after Q School. And then we tried to fit 3 in 3 weeks.
So it's interesting, but this is also quite clever from the ADC, because where's the other one that I starred from Matador? Certainly for the UK players, this will take the top talent in the UK to the ADC.
100%. Yep.
Which for your brand is what you want. You want the top amateur players to be competing in that. And that prize money, that winner's check, does that. It takes the top players away.
Does it? Does it take all of them?
I think it takes I think they will all try and qualify, or most of them. If they don't qualify, they don't qualify, and they use the other one as a backup.
Does the venue and I say this in inverted commas because it's not the title it used to be, but does the prestige of being the Lakeside World Champion and the continuation of those that have gone before carry some weight in this debate at all?
The venue, maybe. The prestige of the title for me, no, because I think at that level, you're eyeing up the check.
You think is the world champion, so you're the worst person to ask for that. Dan, what about you?
I think you're eyeing up the check, not the title.
I think that for amateur players, the way that the current, I think the situation of how people in modern darts view that tournament at Lakeside, that I tend to agree with Phil that people will be eyeing up a check rather than a title. It probably won't be everybody. There will be some amateur players who, and I apologise if this is a bit whatever prejudice, probably is. It's me. It might be the older players or the more experienced players. You know, we might see more senior players, and I don't mean from the world seniors, I just mean they are dart players that have been around for a bit longer, who still carry a bit of romance in them for being a Lakeside world champion. You know, the darts purist. I'd be really interested to hear the views of somebody like and I'm sure we can get these views, we've got these connections, but somebody like a Matt Edgar, certainly someone like a Scott Mitchell or somebody like that, to see whether they would. Obviously, I know they're two very different players because they've got two very different histories with that venue and with that title, but I'd like to get views of people like that to see, you know, whether the romance and the history is a draw. I think it will be more so for the more senior players, those that have been around darts a bit longer and the darts purists, whereas I think the more younger players and the more international players certainly will be looking at the check rather than any lineage, because the lineage is tenuous at best. And I think that with every year that goes by, less and less people subscribe to that association of that title in its current format.
I don't disagree at all. Evening, Simon. And to be fair, I'm just on the WDF World Championship race table. Now, interestingly, have the UK players already made their mind up without even this announcement? Right, Shane McGurk is obviously number one as he won it. Sparadan's Dutch. James Beaton, obviously UK. Then we've got David Fatima, America. Thomas Youngens, Swiss. Cantella, Finnish. Cameron, Canadian. Bradley Kirk, British. Then we've got Raymond Smith, Aussie. Scheffler, Aussie. Ryan Hogarth, Scottish. Jimmy Van Schie, Dutch. Paul Lim, Singapore. Martin Turner, English. Two Romanians. Philippines, American.
No, I just think it's too early in the season, if I'm being honest. Their system runs October to October, doesn't it, in terms of qualifying? And there's only really been Ireland, the World Championships, Scotland, Vegas. So if you didn't travel to that, like, it's not really been conducive for UK-based players to go. I don't think you can look too much into that ranking in correlation to qualifying for next year's World Championships when you've got things like England Open, British, you've got things like the Welsh still to come, you've got closer events like basically that list is on the Dutch Open. The Dutch Open's in that as well, obviously, because of Spiridon. But
that was bringing to my point.
Oceania's got a load of events. Raymond Smith won over the weekend. All the players you've listed have won in the very recent future. Martin Turner's up there because he won Scotland at the weekend, but that's a silver ranked. Like until things like Romania.
But my point is,
properly.
very, very limited UK travel to the Dutch Open, which is one of the biggest events. Then Matador, you'll know, but one of the big UK events also clashes with an ADC big event. So players will have to choose there as well. Which one are you going after? And then evening, Lau, hope you are good. And then also already for the ADC Global, the TV deal was on the table. Everyone knows it's going to be on Pluto TV. It's there a year out. Everyone knows what the coverage is already.
And that's big because there has been so much uncertainty. I mean, there's uncertainty halfway through the bloody tournament with the WDF event. Like, we get halfway through the tournament and we don't know what's streaming where, which channel's it on, you know, who's doing what, who's presenting it, who's going to be on commentary. Have they got any commentators? What's going... Like, I don't think we're going to get any of that this time around. I think it's going to be a very slick operation. And that's the thing that I think we will see, is we will see a vastly different presentation of these two events. And you can say what you want about the size of the venue, but I think the presentation in terms of how that comes out in footage terms is going to be vastly different. And that includes, you know, production and commentating. Some might argue potentially refereeing might be better as well.
Like, I appreciate that Dan's trying to put that in there, but across the board in this sport, we are very blessed to have fantastic officials. PDC, WDF, ADC, whatever you want to call it. I don't think there's a bad referee who's at TV level in this country or globally, to be honest.
But I agree that, look, the production will be 150 times better on the ADC Global. We know that. We know what we're going to get. We can't.
I'm intrigued to understand how the format works. Obviously, look, it's going to be hosted at my place of employment at the Super Series, but I still think there's lots of things to unravel within this announcement. Will there be a crowd in every day, which is something we're not used to because of a tournament of this size? Will players, friends and family be able to buy tickets and come down and watch, which you'd expect so for an event of this size now? There's going to be, 7 players a day? There's only 6 at finals night, or is it 7 groups of 8 or 8 groups of 7? I can't remember which round it is. 8 groups of 7, I think.
8 groups of 7.
So it's going to be 7 players a day playing. Are they going to bring 2, 3, 4 people each, put them in the room? Does that then change the atmosphere? Does that change my job a little bit in terms of if I'm repping one of those sessions? Have I got to tell people to shut up a bit more, sort of thing? How does the format differ from a normal Super Series week? Because that was one of the criticisms of last year's format, that it was very, very similar.
Yeah, no, I agree. But judging by that release, it's going to be a longer format, is the way it's implied.
In groups of 7. The first stage is definitely 8 groups of 7. Which implies group play. Play everybody at least once. That's a lot of matches. That's 21 matches a day.
Yeah. But if it's a global championship, then
I'm telling you now, I want a second ref for that. We'll be sharing that. Standing there for 21 games a day.
But
I am.
after this announcement, if you are the WDF, I would imagine that WhatsApp group would have been a little bit busy on Friday night.
You'd expect so.
Because
sometimes competition can bring out the very best in people. And, there is a school of thought that we will now see the best year ever from the WDF because they have to. They have no, they haven't got a choice but to go and do everything they can to up their production levels, to get more sponsor money in, to secure better broadcasting or a better broadcasting situation. The pressure is on. And sometimes in lots of different businesses, certainly one where you've got to sell tickets and you're only competing for a finite number. Let's be honest, these people aren't just competing for viewers, they're competing for fucking players as well. Like, you're right across the board. You're competing both for viewers and sponsors. Generally, they're all fishing in the same pond for sponsors as well, because there's only a finite amount of people who want to engage in sponsorship with darts at that level. They're fishing very much in the same pond in terms of talent, viewers, subscribers, whatever you want to call it, and sponsors. And maybe this is exactly what the WDF needed, was that they are unable to be casual. They can't drift through, or they might not be here in 2 years. They're gonna have to do something.
The one worry I've got is I don't think the ADC are quite ready to take over grassroots darts on the level of the WDF, because it's an association that has lots of other affiliate nations that all run individual things on that regard. If this is to be the starting of the end of the WDF, my worry is, can the ADC then grow quick enough to fill those gaps? Because if you're competing to be the secondary world championship tournament in the world, fine, that's brilliant. But if what that then does have a knock-on effect of all these opens around the world being knocked off, and you're missing out on youth players coming through that system, and boys and girls and women's darts that's actually pretty strong through the WDF at times, and other opens and players that would never have got this opportunity in the past. You think of all the players that have made debuts at Lakeside over the past 20, 30 years that you would never have heard of anywhere else. The likes of Madas Razma and Labanowska starting through the WDF system, even fucking Peter Shaywani, for Christ's sake. Like, iconic, absolute moron of a bloke. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure the ADC are ready to deliver on that kind of level.
No, I fully agree with you. I don't think they are either. But ultimately, all these players around the world on all these opens are great, and I love them. I played in them as a kid and a youth player coming through. You're shooting for the main event. And if that main event isn't there, are these opens all going to run anyway? Do you see what I mean?
No, but that's what I'm saying. But then that's a massive hole in all of these other countries that run an open, even if that's just their national flagship event, like the Dutch Open, brings in a shed load of cash each year, and they don't necessarily pay it all straight back out. The venue costs are quite high, but what it does is then fund their association for the year. So when they send a national team somewhere, they pay less money. England, Darts, is a shambles of an organisation that currently makes their players self-fund. They have to pay to go to fucking South Korea this year. Good luck picking a squad that are prepared to do that. Do you know what I mean? So other places that get these things right can then afford to send a national team and get representation in things like the World Cup and the Europe Cup and all those things as well that come alongside it. Slovakia Europe Cup last year was fantastic. The stream was crisp. The tournament was a decent standard. It was run really well. You could see things going on in the background. The standard was really, really great. Like, in terms of the WDF as a competing televised organisation, this could well be the end of them. The BDO trophy is long gone. The World Masters has just changed hands to the PDC. If they try and run it in the current format or their new format, which isn't strictly World Masters anyway, they're still up shit creek without a paddle. And the World Championships has just taken on another massive competitor rival in the same time frame that they thought they capitalise on darts ahead of the PDC, have been subject to the Tomlin order, don't have a broadcaster, and keeps going down the Swanee. Superb. But actually, in terms of grassroots darts and providing that environment for people to learn and grow and produce those stars of the future, there aren't JDC academies in every country in the world. Now, yes, you're getting some youth players breakthrough, but would we have seen or heard of the likes of Lex Payshauser, who has played through the JDC, any earlier than we have already? No, because he played through that system and through that Belgian national side and whatever else. Like, all of those knock-on effects.
I'm just throwing this out. I don't know if it's happened, but if the WDF don't have a flagship event or a flagship event worthy that these nations and countries feel it should be, will they approach the ADC themselves to be affiliated to the ADC? Because if you're running your country's darts club, if I say to you, right, you're chairman of Slovakia, right, and you're doing the best for your players and your representatives, you look at the top event and go, hang on a minute, this isn't what I signed up for. Would you be taking the decision yourself to approach the ADC and trying to work with them if this goes well?
Have you met people that have any kind of semblance of power in darts?
Yes, unfortunately.
Right.
But
what the WDF currently give these federations is power within their own country. If you now try and affiliate to the ADC, you have to run it the ADC's way. Nobody is about to give up the power they currently own.
I agree, but then if you've got nothing
across
to
Europe
shoot,
in regions that aren't the Benelux region that currently do contribute to the ADC, is going to end up in tatters.
but if you've got nothing to organise and nothing to shoot for, you haven't got any power anyway. You might have within your own nation, but if you've then got nothing to shoot for, what are you doing?
What is more likely to happen is countries will get together, form some sort of union themselves, and have World Cups amongst them or regional international tournaments. You'll see Nordic and Baltics grouping together, and they'll go and play against the other Nordic and Baltics in a tri-nations or a four nations, and you'll see Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland all compete against itself once a year, and that sort of thing. Like, these people won't give up power. Darts is full of dinosaurs who think they're far more important than they actually are. And if you need any more evidence, just go and have a look at who's on the board at England.
I mean this in the nicest possible way, but dinosaurs all died. Dinosaurs have to die at some point.
It almost needs it would be the perfect, actually what it would be the perfect opportunity for. And I mean, if I had £1 for every time someone said this out loud, but it would be the perfect opportunity for, now this is fucking revolutionary, a governing body, if you will, because if you had a governing body, you could it's the governing body that could then, because you don't really need, and again, in what other sport in the world do the sort of that, or does that sport and that sports organizational structure in a country affiliate with a promoter internationally? Well, it doesn't, does it? The way that a sport is managed and governed in a country affiliates itself with the broader, whether it be a continental and then on the next tier up, an intercontinental governing body. If a formation of a governing body or something, that I genuinely think that's how a governing body comes about. If we ever see a governing body in this sport, it will come about due to the breakdown of the WDF. If it happened, if it were to ever happen where the WDF had a breakdown in being able to provide, routes through to big tournaments and harmonize across all these different nations, that is the perfect gulf in which to step a governing body that could coordinate that and then could work with people like the ADC and the remnants of the WDF, etc., but could actually oversee the structure of a sport. Yes, not everybody would think it was a brilliant thing straight away. Of course they wouldn't. There'd be all sorts of power grabs and gulps everywhere. But sometimes, if there is only one bus, even if it's not going in your direction, you've got to get on it.
Again, though, nobody is giving up power to a new body that just going, right, we're going to govern the sport.
Stranger things have happened.
The other, I'm going to say, clever thing from the ADC, you touched on the Tomlin order. preventing players playing in 2 World Championships in the same year. Now, I'm going to use Connor Scott as the example here because he was the one that had to and ah more than anyone last year. If someone else finds themselves in the Connor Scott situation, by calling it a global championship, by definition, not a world championship, that means he could have played in both under the current rules. I'm not saying those rules don't change, but under the current rules, he could play in both.
I don't think the PDC are going to allow an organisation to make a move as sizable as the ADC have without some sort of retaliation, because the thing that the PDC took umbrage to when the WDF moved was going ahead of their tournament and trying to steal some of their spotlight. The ADC have done that and then gone afterwards as well. They've like, oh yeah, let's tick both bases and we're going to completely surround your major tournament and go, right, what can we get out of this? There is absolutely no way on this earth the PDC do not attempt to extend the ruling of the Tomlin order, whether it's their own rule or whether it is legally or whatever else, or try and hide behind that legal precedent of the Tomlin order to incorporate this ADC Global Championship.
That's what I said. I'm not saying rules don't change, but under the current rules, under the current rules, this season, Carl Sneed, I've just used him as an example because he's near the top of the Challenge Tour, so he could get a spot in the World Championships through that. No doubt he's going to play some ADC events as well. Under the current rules, he could play in both, where Connor Scott couldn't last year because one was deemed a World Championship.
Not on your life does that stay the way
I think when we talk about the current rules, it's against the current rules, isn't it? Because we all know there is one rule that is actually important.
Rule number 1.
And it's rule number 1. And if it breaches rule number 1, then it's like, again, without being boring, these aren't the rules of the governing body, are they? These are the rules where a promotion or a promotion company decides who they will pick to play in their promoted event. Like, they've got the final say, haven't they? They can allow anyone to play or not play in their events. They're a promotion company, not a governing body.
100%. But it's interesting. I say this news I think is huge for the amateur player. I think this is great news because now you have so many options, so much money on the table. It can only be a good thing for the grassroots.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's massive, isn't it? It's huge. And it'll be certainly huge for one person in particular because it's a big lump of cash. Set somebody up for a year at least to commit fully to the sport. These amateur players, so one of them could win that and be able to think, right, I can commit fully 100% to playing darts. I can have a year off my job. I can do what, could be life-changing. Could be career-changing.
Now, I don't know if you heard us speak about this earlier, but the way the ranking systems work, that's the only window to put this in because you have to have it done by Q School. Otherwise, you're going to potentially lose all your top players to Q School and get a tour card. So you have to have it all done. And the cutoff for this is like November. So by the time the cutoff, you've done your draw, it's the only place you can kind of put it. The same as Lakeside because of the cutoff at the end of October. And then by the time you do your draw, your promotional work and whatever, that's 3 weeks. You then start. So unless you redo your whole ranking system date and time-wise, it's the only place it can go. And unfortunately, it does go up against the PDC and the Lakeside dates as well.
Correct.
it's really it's intriguing, isn't it? Because we're seeing more and more numbers on the vaults every week. They're going up. What are we, season 11 or 12 of the vaults? More and more every week seem to be playing.
Every week.
Yeah, and that's and October and November is crowded for the PDC, especially when you have to try and fit it all in. You're trying to get broadcasting spots and eyes on your product. That first part of December is perfect for the amateur game in theory, but it creates its own problems as well.
Certainly does.
It's interesting, but it is definitely watch this space, because for an amateur, you've got a lot of money on the table to play for, which can only be a good thing.
I also wonder if things like Lakeside now become a little bit more of a target for players. A bit like in the sense that, think about the women's game, right? For someone like Bo, Lakeside is an absolute no-brainer, because as long as Fallon and Lisa and the other top talents are chasing that spot at the PDC World Championships via it, her competition diminishes. And that then becomes an easy 20 grand for her to win. There are still going to be a couple of players who will chase that Lakeside pot if it stays the same, as it has done for the last couple of years, because they're going to be playing Danny Porter as the number one seed again. No brutal group format. Rock up, straight up, darts on the Lakeside stage for a fair bit of cash.
But the other thing that was being spoken about, this is behind the scenes as well, because obviously I went to Lakeside for the final, and I'm obviously quite good at earwigging. It's my job. I'm not sure how much longer Lakeside is going to be available to the WDF, listening to people talk. And look, by the way, I don't know anything. This is just listening to people in earwigging, that once Bob Potter's will is sorted out and the internal fighting stops, Lakeside may not be an option for the WDF.
But I mean, it's an interesting thing, because a lot of that now, let's be honest, we've seen it being announced. We've seen a lot of the heritage and the prestige that is attached to that tournament is very much because of the location and where it took place. If you take that away, as we have seen, in when do we see it? 2020?
2020, yeah.
The O2, Indigo.
The best venue in the world for darts.
Fuck me. Yeah, but I would suggest, if you are in that situation where the Lakeside isn't available to you and you become the Indigo World Champion, I mean, the Indigo World Champion has become, it's almost a meme of, it's not it's a dig at someone, isn't it, rather than a...
Yeah, so that's what I mean. If
that venue, what is that tournament?
Yeah, God, you were talking about it earlier, that Lakeside being the carrot. If Lakeside isn't the say this one coming up is the last one at Lakeside, does that tournament still have the same pool if it's not a Lakeside?
In future years, no. If this is the last one at Lakeside, then that's a reason in itself to go and win it.
Correct,
but we might not know that until very, very short notice.
There will be some people who will value winning at the Lakeside more than they will value the difference in winning
cash.
Purse. Yeah, there were some people, and again, that's why I'd really like to hear the view of some of those senior players, either players that have won it before, that want another go at it and maybe want to build their legacy and add another title to their legacy.
One of them must be in Portsmouth soon, so we'll find out.
Or again, someone like a Matt Edgar, who is a proper darts man, and and might value or might think that he adds
Okay.
more commercial value to himself as whether it be as a commentator, as a coach, etc., etc.
If I can get them both in the same room, we could have the Duff Edgar debate on this.
I would happily, potentially have to sit between maybe, just because we might have to ramp up security.
Then Cam in.
Neil
Like,
Duff,
in the heavyweight boxers stick the smallest ref in, so there's more room to work around.
Neil Duff will be at Lakeside, Warren, and we will try and get his opinion on this.
Tavern, not Lakeside.
Tavern, sorry. He will be there. We will try.
I'll see him in a couple of days. I'll be talking to Neil. I forgot about that. I'll ask him.
Yeah. You might have to bin something off and do the interview. But we will try and see what we can do. Speaking of the Tavern, it's Gob's favourite time, this. Now, I did check the website or their socials, and we've only got one. So, Gob, you're going to have to insert the ones. I know who qualified, but I don't know which one's which. Because we've got qualifier 1, 2, and 3 in the draw bracket. But
Right.
the Seniors World Championship is this coming week, starting Wednesday at the iconic Circus Tavern in Perth. Tickets are still available, dartshop.tv. Look, tickets are selling really, really well. So there are still limited tickets, but if you want to go, you can still go. This is the draw bracket. There we have it. There's some cracking ties there, boys, isn't there?
Do we? Where is it? There we go. Now we do. I think it's mint. Whoever did that draw, they want a badge.
Pay rise.
Yeah, they definitely want a pay rise. Yeah, absolutely cracking draw. Some very, very exciting games. Some fucking rogue odds about if you are prepared to
Jesus.
risk a couple of quid. I've shared a couple of my flutters with some of the team. I think there's money to be made at this tournament if you're a punter. But no, I think that I'm genuinely looking forward to not only the games that we see, that we know we're going to see, but I just think there's some very, very cool potential games as well. Players that we haven't seen in the seniors before that we will potentially see bumping into each other. And, what's not to look forward to? Having Simon Whitlock and Steve Beaton in the same quarter as someone like Richie Howson, who we've seen, play superbly and dominate tournaments in the seniors. So to see someone who carries that seniors prestige of a Richie Howson, but in the same quarter, no less than Whitlock and Beaton, I think it's fucking mega. Can't wait. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, so I am going off of a green betting company with white and yellow writing because I have an account with them. So Steve Beaton is the 9-2 favourite. Then we have Merv King at 5-1, Leonard Gates 11-2 with Richie Howson, Vincent van der Voort 6-1, the defending champion and someone that has cleaned up the seniors, John Henderson is 13-2. Simon Whitlock 8-1. Neil Duff's into 20-1 from 33s. Yes, I have had a go at 33-1. Robert Thornton 20-1. Graham Usher still get 25-1 on him. I think that's great value. And Richie Burnett still 33-1. Hogan 40-1. Jim McEwen, who is playing lovely right now, 50-1. Mason 80, McGarry 80. Basically, from Mason down, everyone is 80-1, 100-1, 125, 200, 200, 250, 400. John Part 500-1. Trina Gulliver 750-1.
Mental.
There is some ridiculous prices both
There is a huge oversight within that. And look, you could talk about Graham Usher and Neil Duff and Jim McEwen at 100-1 with the tournament sponsors and whatever else. But Do you know the biggest oversight of the lot from these guys?
Who?
Derek Coulson.
I get why you think
Made
that.
back-to-back Champions Weeks at the Super Series and qualified for the UK Open through the PDC events. Not one of these Mickey Mouse held in a fucking barn ones that were ran the other week, apart from Summer Coats. Lovely venue, love them. Yeah. If he beats Mervyn King round one, who look has played pretty lovely on the Pro Tour today, from what I saw, averaged over 100 at one point and lost. If he beats that, he comes into less than 15s instantly, surely.
Probably, yeah.
So at that point, you just get on him each way. Sure, if he's still anywhere near 100 each way, that is the bet. Hands down, right now. You won't appreciate me saying that at all, but.
The problem is he's set for a potential quarterfinal with John Henderson as well.
Who they're clearly not valuing either.
Again, to their detriment. He holds all of the seniors Triple Crown events.
There is no such thing as a Triple Crown in the seniors.
We have also seen as well, though. We've seen John play.
Shoot you.
We've seen John play amazing. Like, we really have seen him play absolutely superb darts in the seniors. But we also know that he is occasionally due a stinker. Like, he is occasionally, the reason that John, and I love John, I think he's brilliant. The reason he hasn't got a tour card is because he's not able to replicate that consistently enough to break back into that. And he could come out and play absolutely superb in his first game, and he could miss the mark in his second. He could also come out and average 102 3 games on the spin. John is, at the moment, erratic. And it's been enough. He has had enough. But if you look at some of those seniors games he's won and some of the titles he's won, he has not had it all his own way. Some of the time he's got off the stage, last 2 or 3 events at the seniors, he's got off stage after winning quarterfinals, semi-finals, and not being pleased with the way he's performed. And if he comes up against someone who chucks in a decent average and stays steady and doesn't fluctuate, then he can be got at the same as all of them.
Oh, they can all be got at.
The difference this time, I think, is John, from what I can gather, doesn't like or enjoy being the favourite. Look, when he walked into Yeovil, first game on, hated it. Fluffed it completely. Walked in as one of the big favourites. John Henderson's here, just turned 50. Bookie's making favourite instantly. No good. Scott Mitchell did the same, didn't he, at the Tavern?
Yeah.
He doesn't have that this year. The likes of Beaton and Merv King and Vincent van der Voort, how on earth they plucked that one out is beyond me, have that pressure. Now, I kind of get Steve Beaton and Merv King and Simon Whitlock, because we've seen him at the Super Series, and all right, he didn't quite have enough at the back end of the tour last year. But Vincent van der Voort has barely thrown a dart anywhere publicly.
Yeah, Vincent is
when he did play, he played pairs in the Dutch Open with his son and lost to 2 players who were, check notes, wearing Vincent van der Voort shirts.
He's been made to be the favourite, odds on, in his opening match with virtually every bookmaker.
Neil Duff, 11 to 10 is such good value.
Yeah, it's silly value. And we've got good form for pointing out good value. Like, I think we made everyone a little bit of money, I think, back in York when we pointed out that somebody had Lisa Ashton priced up at 3 to 1. The pissed in. Neil Duff is like, to make him second favourite in that match, I think is a pricing error.
And he's battle ready as well.
Correct.
He's out playing Super Series, played in the Scottish Open. He is battle hardened.
He is playing more competitive, top, if you like, non-tour card level darts than most other people on the planet, because he's active in virtually every avenue there is to be active. He regularly is playing. He's comfortable in front of crowds. He's not, he's not going to be one of these that comes and thinks, "Oh fucking hell, the camera's on me," and he's quite used to it. He's certainly, I think, the form player going into that.
Adam, he's 11 to 10 on 365, mate. Yeah, I'll tell you one person again that we've not spoken a word about is Leonard Gates.
See,
I've not seen enough.
Leonard's a difficult one because
recently
we've not seen a great deal of him recently. There hasn't been an awful lot of CDC events to catch up on what Leonard's done either. And I don't know how to say this politely. He's played well the last couple of events. The ones he didn't necessarily play well in, he got his prep very, very wrong. We were sending people to his hotel to wake him up because he forgot what time he was on and didn't set an alarm properly. He is capable of imploding. If you go back to that Champion of Champions, every single game that year was close, apart from Richie Howson versus Leonard Gates. And that's because he'd been out of bed 45 minutes.
But does that just tell us as long as he's up on time, he'll be all right then?
Yeah,
well,
that's how
potentially,
it is. He's in the venue 3 hours before.
He's got the big boys to contend with this time, hasn't he?
No, we've seen Leonard make a good account of himself in all sorts of different places. I think some of the problem will be that he's gonna bump into people in that quarter before he gets semis and finals that don't fuck about and can play a game. We just talked about Neil Duff and Vincent van der Voort. We've seen Richard Rowlands over the last 12 months play really consistently. He played superb in Sunderland. He had a couple of good runs. Was it Blackpool where he had a couple of deep?
He'd come back against Thornton and lost Andy Hamilton, yeah.
I agree.
Easy quarter for Leonard, I don't think.
He's not, but with the greatest respect in the world, he has got one of the nicest first games you could get in Kevin Edwards or Mike Huntley.
Perhaps.
Out of the draws he could have got, I'd have taken either one of them.
I'm just not sure that Leonard is a player.
I'm not sure Mike is a great TV player. I think he's very good on the floor. I'm not sure he's a TV player.
I don't know if he builds on, I don't know if that yes, he might get a fairly comfortable first game, potentially. But I'm not sure that helps him out too much going into the next one. I don't know how much of that he carries
on the
through.
floor, Mike is a very good player. I'm not arguing that. But I've seen nothing to suggest that form goes onto TV, whether that be at the Super Series, the seniors events, the same as Kevin Edwards. I saw his qualifying route and he played well on the floor. But as Chris Mason famously once said, you can't practice shitting yourself.
Don't underestimate Kevin Edwards.
Floor, incredible. But TV is different to everything.
TV is different to everything, but also Leonard Gates is a player who is going to give you chances because he cannot count. And it will cost him. And if that is Kevin Edwards that comes through that battle against Mike Huntley, who doesn't have the best record at the Tavern, but is determined to put it right this year, in his own words, from when he qualified this time out, Kevin is the kind of player who will pick off those opportunities. Plus, I'm aware that he has at least one coach, if not two, of fans travelling to watch. Like a physical coach of people from half an hour away in Essex, ready to go down and support him every time he plays. You think that place has been raucous for Howson? He's been there and done it 3 times. Kevin Edwards is the new boy in town with a whole new army.
But again, that comes with an extra pressure. If you've got a bucket load of fans there, that comes with a different pressure as well.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that Leonard can handle it any better than Kevin can in that situation.
We've seen the very elite players in the world struggle to play in front of their home fans, and they're elite. With the greatest will in the world, Kevin Edwards is not elite. So that's an extra pressure that he's never had to deal with.
I think he'll be absolutely fine.
Right, so I want, first of all, before we try and dissect, I'd like your pick of the first round games, please. One game.
Picks, are we? I never like doing picks when I know that I'm going to actually speak to every one of these bloody people this week. I don't mind doing picks where I know that no one's going to hold me accountable for them. But I'm going to have to speak to all these people. Right, but best opening round game. What I'm most looking forward to. One of you will say Duff and Van der Voort, I hope. So therefore, I'll go with the derby. And I'll go Dubbridge and Mason.
Oh, you've nicked mine, you fucker.
It's a fascinating game. Not sure I agree with the particular bookie I'm looking at. I think there's value there potentially. Certainly, if you're going to have a bit of an acca and mix a couple up. But I think it's for a number of reasons that's an exciting game. We know Chris. He's a friend of the show. It's always fun to see him play in person as well, especially when you're in the venue. But I just think it's an interesting game. And I think is that not the last game on the Friday night as well, which is even more like fun.
And also remember, this is the last time this weekend, no matter how far he goes, you will see Chris Mason throw competitive darts.
So it could be his last match.
Correct. Gob, your pick of the first round ties?
Coulson King.
I am going. You've left me. Because you've nicked mine, I'll go Duff Van der Voort.
I nicked yours, and I said one of your
picks.
My predictions are on already, aren't they? I'm already on the nose.
Yeah. Right. I would like, now, chat room as well, your semi-finalists.
Ooh, right. Semi-finalists will be... Fucking that first one's fucking horrible, you know. Quarter one is absolutely awful to predict. But I feel that even with a few new faces, we might see a relatively familiar lineup for seniors events. Because I'm happy to call John Henderson, Neil Duff, Simon Whitlock, quarter four. One of two. Jim McEwen.
Gob, your 4 semi-finalists.
Am I allowed to do this?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Depends what you're doing next week.
Well, that's the thing. Normally, I'm on social media, but I'm a ref in the game next week.
You're fine. Cool. Who do you think will get to the semi-finals? Not who you want, who you think. There's a difference. Because if I'm picking who I want to get to the semi-finals, it's different to the ones I'm about to pick. I tell you what, well, do you think there's a real shitter for me? Because I think...
Flick the draw back up, Phil, for those in the chat room that are trying to recall which quarter everybody's in to make their picks. There you go, folks.
Yeah, I've just been told off for looking at the draw as if I meant to know it all off the top of my head because we did it.
So, bearing in mind, Richard Rowlands will play Graham Usher. Kevin Painter will play Richie Burnett. And Kevin Edwards will play Mike Huntley. They're the winners of Q1 to 3.
Right. I'm going to change it because it's. I'm not happy. I'm swapping Whitlock for Burnett. So Henderson, Duff, Burnett, McEwen. There's my 4.
Have you been looking at my notes?
Great minds, mate.
You actually made notes. Who are you trying to kid that this is a proper podcast?
Great minds think alike.
What, have we got 2 in the room then? Right, I'm going rogue.
Oh dear, here we go.
Coulson, Gates, Howson. McEwen.
I'm going Henderson. Oh, it's quarter 2 that's fucking me up. Because I can't decide out of Duff and Usher.
Oh, friends.
Usher. Sorry, Neil.
Yeah,
But-
3 times. Did you hear that, Neil? He hates you. First
But
we
ne-
stitched up with a draw, and now he doesn't even back you to get through it.
Burnett. McEwen. And again, I say this with the utmost respect. I think Jim McEwen, if he's got an unbelievable section to what he could have got.
Correct. That's why I've picked Jim.
Yeah.
McEwen. It's difficult with Thornton in there, but again, we saw such dominance from Thornton in those early seniors events, and this year we've seen real. I know we've seen him in a final, but it's been a mixed bag, a real mixed bag of form. We've seen him really struggling for it, chasing it around the board.
Yeah.
And we've played some really good stuff as well.
He's too erratic at the moment for me. When
Yeah.
it's good, it's good. When it's off, I couldn't rely on him to be on.
No. And the variance to me at the minute is too broad. It's too wide. There's too big a gap between what we can see from him and what we do see from him.
Right. I want your winner and runner-up of the 2025 Bet Goodwin World Seniors World Championship.
Football's always a winner. Oh shit, wrong TV show.
John Henderson will beat Richie Burnett.
Gob.
Richie Howson beats Leonard Gates. Didn't even fancy Gates earlier.
Graham Usher beats Richie Burnett.
So not only have you not backed Neil Duff, but you've just rubbed it in by saying whoever comes through that part of the draw wins it.
Isn't the winner anyway? Yeah.
Yeah. And to be fair, if Neil beats Graham, Neil wins it. Whoever
Nope,
wins
I had that. You
Whoever
just
wins-
said he doesn't get past the second round.
whoever wins that game wins the tournament.
Right,
No
won't be there, will
backtracking
it?
now, mate. If you hate a player, just say it.
Don't know where
Say
back
it
to
with
Switzerland on
Stick to
Thursday.
it.
Look, I'm looking forward to being at the tavern. I'm doing comms on Friday and Saturday. Should be.
I'm there all week. I'm going to see every game.
You
All
are.
right.
I can't bloody wait.
Remember to bring the camera, Gob.
Yeah, it's behind me. I've not packed it yet.
Cute qualifier 3 is Mike Huntley, Ron.
Yes, don't forget that camera. Or
Yeah, be right.
it'll be even more amateur hour with what I'm pumping out from the back end of the week.
I need my suit to turn up first. It was meant to arrive yesterday.
You got any fancy dress?
Well, we have to dress up while we're on stage.
First women's series was this week as well. A very
Certainly was.
a very mixed bag.
Yeah, probably.
Lisa winning event 1, Fallon 2, and then Bo winning the double on Sunday. But I want to talk about Bo first of all. What she said last year about needing to be tested and her game has gone stale. In the Challenge Tour and on the Pro Tour, she was brilliant.
Yep.
Going back to the Women's Series this week, not the same player.
No,
Has she almost outgrown this? And does something change mentality-wise when she goes to the Challenge Tour and the Pro Tour?
I suppose only she could tell you that, but the numbers, if you want to look just at...
That's all I'm doing. Is looking at data that the numbers are nowhere near as big as the Challenge Tour and the Pro Tour that she was hitting.
The stats alone suggest that she plays better against a better class of opponent. And that, you can't argue that because the numbers are there. She does play better against a better class of opponent. Whether that's conscious or unconscious, whether she is aware of, not... or taking her foot off the gas maybe is the best. Yeah, I'm looking for the right phrase. That probably isn't the right one, but when she probably is, I imagine, trying to play her absolute best all the time. But it does show that levels of competition in top players, which she is, they compete. They're not just people who throw darts at the board. They compete against opponents. And she clearly is, at the moment, playing better against a better class of opponent. There's no doubt in that.
Your take, Gob?
Yeah, look, I think we see this in other situations as well quite a bit. Like, I think taking the foot off the gas is the wrong phrase, but actually there's a different comfort that perhaps we see in another situation, and that's when a player's already confirmed their spot in a group at the Super Series. Once a player's through, there is a different level of intensity to a performance sometimes. And that's only natural in a human being.
Yeah. I'd love to have seen her on the Pro Tour. I know she couldn't get from was it Wigan, wherever they were, to Rosmont. It was impossible, but she would have thrived again in that environment today.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
She knows how to play in fucking mittens because it was freezing.
We'll come on to that in a minute. Don't worry. Obviously, in terms of the yearly race, for the women has only just started. But in terms of the race for the match play, are we saying how far up this list are we saying is now safe?
Top 3. Done.
I think lower.
Reckon?
Yeah.
What is there left? 4 events or 8 events?
Some talent in that, there's some talent running to 15 there.
Cut off is the 9th of June.
That doesn't answer my question. Is there 2 blocks left or just the one?
I'm just looking.
8 left.
8. I think Gemma Hayter and above are safe because of the money they will add to their tallies.
I say, right, there's absolutely no way that Gemma is... I don't think £5,900 gets there. But I also don't think there's any way that Gemma Hayter is not.
Yeah, but she's not safe.
She's not safe on that amount.
No,
It's Ryan Searle at the match play all over again. Right, that amount will not be enough to qualify, but will she go and add to it? Yes.
I think from 3 up, you could not turn up to the next few events and you're done. You're in.
I think the minute you do that, though, what you then do is open up the opportunity for players below to earn £2,000 at a time.
No, I agree, but if you're Bo and you're going to have to try and balance potentially playing other events, if you're going to get invited to Pro Tours, you're going to get invited to other things, then there isn't a pressure at all to play Women's Tour because you've secured your spot at the match play. And if you need to then look at that later in the year for qualification for other things, then you can come back to it. Knowing with her talent, you can turn up to a couple of events and pick up big lumps of money.
There's a couple of interesting ones. Paige Pauling had a really good weekend. Blanked in event 1, but then went 300, 500, 300.
And that's why I think, she's down 15th at the minute. And let's be honest, there is some talent. Like, between Angela Kirkwood and Paige Pauling, there is some talent in there. So, I don't think it's a done deal.
No, it's interesting. But look, for those that want to know, the top 8 at the moment are Bo, Noah Lynn, Fallon, Lisa, Gemma Hayter, Robin Byrne, Aileen de Graaf, Lorraine Wynne-Stanley, Angela Kirkwood just outside in 9th, Mikuru Suzuki in 10th, but we are led to believe she is not playing much women's series this year. Look, that might change, but we are led to believe that she is not playing much in the UK this year. So we may not see Mikuru Suzuki in Blackpool.
Could be a shame.
Primarily
because I was hoping to take the kids to the women's afternoon, and I think young Ted would have very much appreciated that walk on.
Bit of Baby Shark. Ted would have loved it, yeah.
I think Ted will be gutted that he misses out on a bit of that.
But no, it was a good women's series block, so to speak. I'm going to play a clip I've got lined up. Many people wanted the question asked. People might not like the answer, but we have an answer.
The reasoning behind it is on a number of levels. We look at our main order of merit and we have to make sure that the rewards are there and are fairly distributed for players at different levels of that order of merit. And we feel that, to be in the top 16 of the main order of merit is a goal that, really should be rewarded, or an achievement that should be really rewarded. And, players who are in the next bracket down need to have they should strive to get in it, And I think that this is one of those scenarios where players who are just outside are obviously going to be disappointed, But in the same vein, they've got opportunities to get into that group. I looked at the numbers. I did a spreadsheet about the evolution, or evolution is the wrong word. The change in players over a 2-year cycle in different sections of the rankings. Top 8, top 16, top 32. It's over half. In a 2-year period, over half the players in each of those brackets changes. So the opportunities are there for players to move forward. And clearly, if you've got something and someone takes it away from you, you're not going to be happy about that. But we have to take the bigger picture. We have to look at scheduling. We have to look at demands on players. We have to look at rewards and incentives for players.
Full interview over on our YouTube channel. Look, whether you like the answers or not, Matt never ducks them, and he's given the PDC explanation to why they've changed the Euro Tour rankings.
I understand his logic. I get his viewpoint. To his company.
The same way I understand the fucking bad robot from iRobot's logic, but it doesn't mean I fucking agree. He fucking killed someone.
Fucking niche reference that is.
My logic is undeniable. Yeah, but I'm gonna fucking stab you with this stupid fucking virus.
Yeah, you know, few will agree. Very few will agree. But very few are the chief exec of the biggest darts organisation in the world. So, who are they to say? You know, it's his company, isn't it? Like, it's difficult. I don't agree with him, but I understand his... My point of disagreement doesn't come from the position of being him, you know, which is that he has this strategic, he clearly has these goals and organisational vision and places he wants to get that tour to, and he thinks that this is the way to get it there. He's been pretty successful so far, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is, and this is the challenge with the PDC often, is like they can sometimes be very easy to criticise. You know, there's some that we disagree with, and we all go, "Fucking hell, that's a terrible idea." But as an entity, they are remarkably successful, and therefore you can make yourself look a fool fairly quickly if you keep saying, "Well, that's shit." But no, if the aim is to sell,
I'm going to keep trying.
if the aim is to sell tickets and get people watching on telly, and you know they're certainly doing all of that.
Yes, Liam. Funny you should say that. The draw for the UK Open, I believe the draw is being done Wednesday, and it will be made public on Thursday.
Kind of hoping it'd be today, to be honest.
Not live.
They got to redraw it 4 times. Is that what it is? Is that why it takes it out?
To be fair, this is probably the only one early on I forgive them for not doing it live, because they draw all 3 rounds at once. So we've got him, or him. If they win, we'll play either him, or him. It does get a little bit complicated to do live.
We'd manage it here with our little fucking number discs. 41 will play number 48. Chicken chow mein will play Chinese spare ribs.
Yeah, we can do that. We've never cocked it up yet. Mind you, if you ask half of the players, they'd say we've cocked it up. Like, they'd say that it was a fucking catastrophe, some of them.
Oh, Christ. You wait until you see someone at the tavern. They're going for you.
Well, at least it's as clean as a whistle, innit? That's the only thing about our draws, is they're as fucking straight as you like.
7 hours ago, we had this social media post. Really disappointed with playing conditions today in Rosmalen. The venue is freezing and no condition of location for players. A bad decision on the PDC's behalf. The players deserve better.
Well, it's a good job the fucking Geordies can stand the cold, isn't it? Because I don't think there is a coincidence that all of a sudden it's freezing and we see 2 Geordies in the semi-final. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. I think if you're not very good at playing in the cold, bad one was a summit.
No.
He wasn't the only player to hit out, by the way. There was a new tour card holder who took to Facebook to say, "I'm not one to moan about conditions, but this is ridiculous." And then since then...
Clearly he is. He's very quickly painted himself as a player that moans about conditions. He's only made it 3 events in.
Yeah, the internet was horrific from the venue as well today. I've got to say that Dart Connect kept freezing, and not just thing like it was a internet thing. They'd all update at once. George Killington accused Mickey Mantle of cheating on social as well.
Get in there.
Speaking of Mickey quoted Daryl's thing with, as professional players, we shouldn't be concerned about playing conditions. Unfortunately, last weekend in Wigan and now in this week in Rosmarlen, it isn't good enough. Same shite. The PDPA say it's the PDC's responsibility and the PDC say it's the venue's responsibility.
Wait till they get to fucking Minehead.
Yeah. On those points, right, I'm going to, and I said this on the stream today, and I'm going to say it again. The cold thing, I can fully get behind, because as a dart player, when your hands are freezing, your hand and fingers don't open.
You can't release the dart properly.
I can fully appreciate if it's cold, they've got every right to moan.
Yeah.
However, the location of the venue, I have got no sympathy for whatsoever.
No.
It is an hour and 15 minutes on a train from Schiphol Airport. It is not the end of the world.
Well, not when not when for Christ knows how many other events you're expecting people to come from Canada to fucking Barnsley.
Well, I was about to say, forget Canada. Even if flip it around, if you're coming from Holland, right, you're going to get a flight to Manchester if you're at Wigan, or if you're in
Sheffield,
Keynes, you're going to go Birmingham, Luton, or Stansted. You still then either have to get a cab or a train to town, which is about the same sort of distance. I've got no issue if the venues are within an hour and a half of major airports on direct train lines and so on. That's not an issue for me. The cold is one thing. Where it is not.
Yeah, I think it's a silly remark, that, and it took away from the fact that there might have been a legitimate gripe about playing conditions. Because, like I said, this is the pro tour where we have people from all over the planet. We have people that come from, Australia. They come from the southern hemisphere. We have people coming from Asia. We have people coming from North America, and they manage to turn up to events in Barnsley and Milton Keynes. Yeah, not for me.
Yeah, the cold one I can get behind, but the location
if there is something to do with the venue or the environment you're playing in that has a detrimental effect to you being able to physically throw your dart, fair enough. If you don't like getting, the train for an hour, I don't know, play better, upgrade yourself to first class. I can recommend the Seatfrog app. It's very good.
And to make you feel better, Dan, Leeds have scored at the death against Sunderland.
What's it there?
Have we missed anything else in a week? Because these 2 hours have gone quick.
Oh, Christ, is it that time? Good God. Wow. Have we missed anything? We didn't. We haven't talked very much about Chris fucking Dobie. And how we managed to get two. I brought it up initially. We managed to get 2 hours through, and we haven't really recognised that. He's moved to number 2 on the Pro Tour Order of Merit,
which means what? Cool.
It means not fucking what, mate.
Number 8.
Wow, he's qualified for Minehead already. Congratulations.
It means more than number 1 at the minute.
To be fair, I know he won the tournament today, and look, I love Dobes to bits, but he wasn't the best Geordie today. Overall, Callum was incredible today.
He was
until he lost.
Until he got beaten in the semi-final by the other Geordie. It is right, isn't it? You've got to win it. I thought Chris played well. It was good to just see him, consistently throughout the day, keep winning, and it has been lacking in his game. Like, we've seen lots and lots of him playing well, not as much of him getting over the line in events. Didn't have a huge amount of pressure on him in the final. Yellow class and seemed to have run out of steam a little bit, but he he averaged a ton in the final. He averaged a ton in the semi-final. The absolute destruction of Krzysztof Ratajski with over 113 average, 113 and a half average in that quarter-final. You know, Chris played some absolutely superb darts today. But like I say, more important than just playing, you know, like that, the 92 average wasn't great against Wessel Nijman, but he managed to get that 6-4 win, you know, right things at the right time, got to the winner's line. Really, really, really impressive day, I think.
Dan, do you need a moment?
I think I've just got most of it out.
Bob, I didn't watch any of it. People are asking from a Modus report from you.
Really, really good week, to be honest. Really good Saturday night. Shane McGirt getting over the line. His finishing was superb. Thursday was a little bit ropey. I think he travelled early Thursday morning, hadn't played a lot, but by the time he warmed up Friday, he was excellent. Debut for Henry Coates, beaten in the semi-final. Great talent. He is played really, really nicely all weekend. I mean, the game he lost to Shane, Shane was averaging 110 and 3-1 down. Like, there's not much more you can do in that situation. Really, really solid from him. Howson looked excellent in Group A. 14 straight matches. He lost his first, then won the next 14. Didn't quite get it going Saturday night, but he is in some form, by the way. He won his last 14 matches at the Super Series before that in the Legends Week that included the likes of Beaton and Burnett, etc., who are going to be at the Tavern as well. He went home and practiced for 2 days, put up a brand new Blade 6 triple core, hit a 9 darter a year on from his previous one on the Scolia. So, yeah, don't write that man off. I should have mentioned that when we were talking about the Tavern earlier, probably. But, yeah, Shane McGirt, really, really solid. And then an interesting week underway now.
Happy days. We have got plenty of interviews coming your way. The one with Russ is out. We'll get a couple out tomorrow. And of course, then it's just busy from us. Dan and God will be at the Tavern for the whole tournament. I will be joining them on Friday. We have the Premier League covered for you as well. Streams tomorrow and Wednesday as well. So literally, this is your ultimate darts destination here at Online Darts. This will be available as an audio only in the morning for those that want to listen while you're doing your exercise or whatever, if you're fishing or whatever you want to do.
What random 2 activities that you think people get up to during the day? I'd have gone with driving to work. That's what I'd have gone with.
In the middle of fucking February, by the way, yeah, because everybody's out on the bank to the fucking Tyne with a rod out going, oh, can I catch some tuna for mid-sea?
If you can get tuna in the Tyne, then fucking hell.
Tin of.
Yeah, fucking hell. But we have been Online Darts. It's been a pleasure keeping you company for the last few hours. Remember, stream returns 11:55 tomorrow. I've been Phil Bars, Jack Garwood, Dan Simpson. We are signing out, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
Oh.